And we are back on the build phase. I'm Mr. Bend, and today I am joined by a guest, but before I get to the fun core topic of today's show, I need to do a little bit of a mea culpa. I owe Rob Smallwood and the rest of the Modern Council a little bit of an apology. Last week I did an episode that kind of it sung along to the same chorus as Team Apex's podcast with offering a fairly wide range of criticisms of where the modern format stands at this point. And the responsible thing to do would have been to reach out to somebody on the Modern Council, bring them on the show to talk about it, at least get some comment, handle it in any kind of way other than just turning the microphone on and kind of popping off about various criticisms that was less coming from myself and more just agreeing with Team Apex. So I wanted to lead the show off with that. Normally I try to be a little more responsible in how I handle these things. So again, apologies to Rob and the rest of the Modern Council. Setting that aside, let's get to the core topic of today's show. And for that, I have a assistant. Welcome back to the show, Peter.
Oh, I've been promoted to assistant now. Nice.
Well, you have all of the important information with regard to what we're about to talk about. So without you, I would just be making things up.
I mean, it seems like you're pretty good at that right now.
Sometimes. If there's anything I'm good at, it's talking a lot, which is not a comment about the substance. Okay, so it's that time of year again where arguably the best event in the Versus community is gearing up to take place. I'm referring, of course, to Midwinter, and Peter being the valiant administrator of our Midwinter. What is this? I think your second year in the primary driver's seat. Is that correct?
Second year in the primary driver's seat.
And this is overall the fifth year, or are we up to 6 now?
I think this is 6.
Wow. Yeah. Time flies, man. Okay, crazy. So for somebody who's brand new to the Versus scene, can you break down what Midwinter Gaming Convention is, and more importantly, why this matters to Versus players?
Well, so Midwinter Gaming Convention is kind of a smaller Milwaukee area convention, but it has roots in a lot of the kind of RPG conventions, and we as Versus players started coming to it, I want to say like year 2 or 3 of Versus. Me and Carlos Venezuela, or Carlos Luna, as I do believe he's known on Facebook, started doing this, and what we thought it'd be is a great start of the year for Versus. Like, this kind of kicks off the new year of, let's start off new sets, let's start off new tournaments, let's start off the whole like year of Versus. And it kind of gives some people some time. If we knew a lot of people are like, well, after Gen Con, I'm just going to take a break. It's a good time. You've had some time after Gen Con to relax. Maybe you've played in a couple BP online tournaments, but nothing super serious. We're hoping to start that serious kind of tournament scene back up again this time of year.
I think I have to disagree with you about one detail in what you said there. I think the first Midwinter was within the first year of Versus, right? Because it was the base set came out in August. Then no, it would have been the second year because it was after Aliens came out. So it would have been. Yeah. Okay. So all right. So not this third year. It's a very minor criticism.
No, it's okay. Yeah, you're right. I'm trying to think back, like what sets were out that first year. It was kind of the Wild West at that point.
I think the base set was 2015. Then Defenders and A-Force were on top of each other at the beginning of 16, and then there was Aliens, which came out in August. And the first Midwinter happened before Legacy came out, which I think was April or May of 2017.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All right, so now that we've gone down this trip down memory lane, what's in store for the Versus community this year at the Midwinter Gaming Convention?
Well, there's the big main tournament, which is the Saturday, which I do believe is January 13th. I should really know this. Actually, it might be 14th. I will double check my dates while talking to you.
Saturday is the 14th.
The 14th. Thank you very much. I can work off that. So that day is the big money tournament, as we like to call it. It is $1,000 prize pool. The big thing I have to emphasize is we have been known as a regional. We are not a regional this year, but we still have a prize pool, which is thank you, Upper Deck, for keeping us going.
Hmm.
And then the rest of the weekend, Sunday is kind of a smaller. That's usually the let's goof around with stuff tournament, like kind of tournament. Like everyone's usually getting ready to go on a plane. There's no real serious decks played. Friday is one of the bigger returns of something, and that is the Mega Team Battle, which you unfortunately never seem to be able to get to. I'm sorry.
It's always hard, man.
Yeah, I know it's a Friday. You got kids. I totally understand. And then Friday evening, we actually have a format tournament, which I would like to announce comes with a $500 prize pool. The problem is, right now, we don't know the format because that is based on what Upper Deck releases for formats. They are not telling me anything in advance, which I'm totally okay with.
So this is going to
Like,
be a different featured format.
this is going to be
Uh,
the start. Yeah, this is going to be the format of the new year.
and typically this is the time of year where Upper Deck's like, hey,
I
play
have a
with photo
feeling it's going to
cards.
come soon. I would like to think it's going to come soon. I might start bugging Veets about at least can I give a general idea.
Hmm. So if
And
that's
then
if
yeah,
this featured format event is a side event, then what's the format for the main event?
the main event format is excursion,
Oh,
which
incursion, right?
yeah, incursion. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
pronounced it terribly. But yes, incursion I am very excited for because it's a very wide open meta. Yes, we have some bans, but there's still a lot of decks that can hang in that format.
Oh
There's
yeah,
still a lot of unknowns. Um, this year, my kid has really started getting back into it because he is liking the idea that he can run back some old decks that he really enjoyed, but have kind of fallen to the wayside due to formats.
sure.
So hopefully, Incursion is brings out some really good decks.
Yeah, there's still a lot of like absolute degenerate nonsense. And I
Yes.
I think if Upper Deck cuts the same number of cards from the second incursion event, like if that's kind of the standard, what they did at the first one, if that becomes the standard, we're gonna need like two more cuts before it gets to be like really its own unique thing.
Yeah, I
Probably.
think it was you and Bert that always said like the fifth or sixth. But I think if they make cuts like this, third one will start being that nice. You can actually kind of figure out a meta. Right now, it's
Yeah.
really hard to figure out a meta.
It really
At least I,
reminds me of the period when Hearthstone introduced Wild, and for
yeah,
a long time, Wild was just basically the same as Standard. Like there was hardly any difference, and it took a few years of sets rotating out and new things before they became really different things. And that's sort of where we're at with Incursion. I am impatient. I'm really looking forward to Incursion becoming a totally different thing from Multiverse, just
yeah.
because it's something I've been wanting for so many years. So seeing this as the format for the Winter Classic, which is my favorite tournament every year, is really exciting stuff.
I'm really glad that's taken on the name Midwinter Classic. I really like that idea.
It
Makes
was
me
your
feel
idea,
like I
right?
belong in those higher tiers of sports.
Are you patting yourself on the back for coming up with that name? Because wasn't it your idea?
It was my name, but me and Carlos have kind of been calling that for years after I think the third or fourth year. We just never named it that. And like
Sure.
last year, I just said, forget it, I'm naming it this.
So to circle back to the regional designation, what
Yes.
does it mean for players that this doesn't count as a regional?
So from what Vita's kind of told me, and I actually very much agree with him on this one, is that regionals will not really take place in the same places that they did last year. They're trying to give other stores and such the chance to become a regional.
It's awesome.
Um, I think all that means is just a lower prize pool for the ones that keep like a consistent versus a regional getting a bigger prize pool. I think that's all that that means is what I'm understanding.
What
Could
about
be totally
League?
wrong, but
Does that because League has traditionally been something that we think of as only taking place at regionals? Will players be able to participate in League at Midwinter?
I am not running league this year.
Okay.
Um, I did not bring that up because it was kind of a hassle for midwinter.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
you went
only
above and beyond to make League happen last year, and I'm pretty sure my advice was don't do it. So I
yeah,
don't blame you at all for not doing it this
well,
year.
and
For
it's
people
not
who
even
don't
that.
know, Peter was a superhero, an absolute saint to make League happen the way he did. And a huge percentage of that happening at all was on him personally. So I don't think he got enough credit for that at the time, and I don't blame him for not wanting to do it in that way again.
And it's not that I didn't want to do it, it's that there's no real store up here that sells verses on a regular basis without having to kind of pay for it first.
Mhm.
And I really don't like the idea of saying, hey, I'm going to order this, but I need money or I need people to commit to this before I put money down. Because I don't like locking people into that. Last year was kind of nice because I was like, all you got to do is order from Upper Deck website, send me a confirmation email or just your confirmation number, and that's perfectly okay. This year, I didn't want to put people under that pressure because it's so weird with sets right now.
Mhm.
I was really worried it was going to come into like a January 1st release or something, and everyone had to order it before then. And nah,
Well,
it's a
and
headache.
one of the other options I remember we discussed was you just covering it yourself and hoping nobody left you with the bill.
Yes,
Which I was
that
like,
was.
dude, you can't. As much as I love the versus community, you
Yeah.
can't do that, man. Like
Well,
that's
and
not good.
I would not put that on anybody. That's what advice I would give to anybody who's
Yeah.
suggested this. Not just me, not just you, anyone. You know, if you got us, I want to say John Phillips at Oklahoma last year, he did league, and his store ordered a certain amount. I don't know how they covered it, but it seemed like they sold out. So maybe he took orders and locked it in.
Okay, well, let's set all this aside since we don't want to talk about what's not happening. We want to talk about what is happening. Other things from, I guess this would count as part of the regional prize pool. Is any kind of buy credit at Gen Con? Is it going to be like the same kind of regional prize mats, or is it just the cash purse that Upper Deck's putting up for this event?
I do not think it's the regional type mats.
That makes
Uh,
sense.
yeah, I think Midwinter is kind of. I think I've been dubbed kind of that weird, like you've been around so long, so we'll just keep funding you kind of thing.
Hmm.
Which is, I mean, I'll take any day. Um,
I mean, the turnout is good. It's an event that
but
the community
yeah,
supports probably more than any
they
other. I mean,
made
I know Gen Con's bigger, but Gen Con is kind of there's a
Gen Con
lot
is
of
Gen
other stuff going on. Yeah,
Con.
it's
I
the
can't
World
compete with Gen
Championships for
Con.
Versus.
I mean, for a couple years, it looks like we were competing with Origins when that was still going on.
Hmm.
But so it not being a regional doesn't. There's as far as I know, if no Gen Con buy, I mean, Beats may send me a message being like, "All right, who wins?" You know, I can't guarantee what's going to happen. But I would also, I know I keep mentioning his name, but I'd like to shout out to Veets because he's been working with me almost on a daily basis with any kind of dumb questions I have. He's been one of the better parts of working with Upper Deck in a long time. But
It's nice
also,
to have a versus specific guy.
yes, he knows like all the questions I'm asking are very like he knows how to answer them quickly, or at least be like, I can talk to somebody about that and get you an answer, and he usually gets me back to me in about a day. Now, if we can just work on the question system,
So I got
yeah,
one more kind of bummer question, and then we can
get me with it.
just get hyped for the whole rest of the show. And that is, does everybody who's going to play have to be 18?
I'm assuming since it's a money tournament, yes.
Okay.
I will confirm with that, and I will let you know. I will send Veets a message today,
I'm
and I will
expecting that
let you
to
know
be
what's
the
going on.
case. And like,
I'm expecting because it's a money tournament. I thought
yeah.
that was like the big thing. Is now unfortunately you have to be 18 to compete for money. But like that sucks for the format tournament too. If we have some younger kids, I'm gonna try to at least make them get something out of it, even if they show up just to play a couple games. I'd rather have new people come in and start playing now, and we'll figure out some kind of prize.
Hmm. Well, I know I saw
I
on the
get
Facebook
my own
Collective there
selection.
was one other dad who had two kids. I think they were both teenagers. And I was like, hey man, you should 100% go to Midwinter, but like be aware of this like rule
Yes.
so you don't go there and hit disappointment. You know, as long as you know what you're getting into, even if you
Yeah.
don't play in any of the events, just showing up and being around this all the versus players and being able to get pickup games, it's a great time.
That is the plus of the tournament is most of the time we usually get drops. So by like third round, you're always going to be able to find someone probably looking for a pickup game. They might be playing their incursion, they might be playing some other randomness. Have your kids start showing up, play against those guys. It gets reps in and it gets them more confidence in playing the game.
Okay, so Midwinter Classic. Do you have any
Right.
idea what time you're going to want to get started in the morning? How many rounds? Is
Um,
are those
rounds
details
is probably
fleshed
going to
out
be
yet?
based on number of people.
Okay.
I would like to get started. I would like to do player meeting at 10 and get going by 10:30 because as we know, sometimes we go to long periods of time. We're notorious for that because we seem to hit the times of stall decks at Midwinter.
Well, and all it takes is one game that goes to
Yeah.
35 minutes each round, and then
hmm
it's max time every single round.
And notoriously, that's the person who gets into top eight. And those games just go longer and longer. Like I said, the Midwinter format seemed to be hitting that nice stall deck time of year. But yeah, I would like to do eight because that's usually about what we do, and then cut to a top eight in the usual top eight format. I would like at least one. I'm throwing it out now. Top two finals have to play at least one game. There will be
Yeah.
no we cut and we're done. You got to play one.
Yeah,
Smallwood and Mitch last year were very polite into playing one. It wasn't the most exciting, but they played the one.
well, it's always a bummer when like the most important match of the whole event is just
Yeah,
like settled with a handshake. Like for those of
yeah,
us who can't make it to that table, let the people enjoy it. Let us watch. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Even
De-
if you decide beforehand, you handshake on it, you still got to play the one.
yeah, yeah,
That's
I
that's
agree with
on the
that.
top two, but the one's going to get played.
I support you 1,000% in that decision. Okay, so let's move back to Friday. Uh,
Friday.
big team battle. What
Oh,
are the
big team battle.
details? What if I don't have a bunch of friends to make a big team? Can I still show up and play?
You can still show up and play. The plus of big team battle is when we start the event, we will pick two captains. It's very much we're going to call this schoolyard rules. Two captains are picked, and they're going to pick not based on the player, but based on the MC that's placed on a table. They will not know who the player has for that MC. They might know, like let's say Burt brought Smallwood, Phillips, and Caleb. He's gonna know what MCs they're playing, but if there's three or four of those MCs, he's not gonna know exactly which MC it is. So that's how we're picking MCs. We usually have an even number of players. If there's an odd player, we'll figure it out. I haven't had one yet. But in between, so you're gonna play your first rounds. It's gonna sit across randomly, pick it up. Second round, you are going to pick what players playing against who based on what. Like, so say I'm playing. I hate to say it. I'm playing Outriders, and you're playing something else, something that beats Outriders. Well, your captain would probably want you to play against me because you beat Outriders. That kind of scenario, and we're gonna go back and forth like that.
So is it you get 12 players, you end up with two teams of six, you get 10 players, you end
Correct.
up with two teams of five. So it's
That is
essentially
correct.
two captains and you split whatever the number is in half.
Yep. It sounds incredibly complicated, but it's become one of the bigger events at Midwinter. Um, at least Apex looks forward to it, but they bring basically a team themselves. So I
Yeah.
guess there's that.
Yeah, Apex is like half the community.
And growing somehow.
Yeah, yeah. You think they would be out of versus players in the Chicagoland area, but no. Apex keeps finding new ones.
I don't know where they're finding them. Maybe they're like Craigslisting them. I don't know.
Evangelizing, preaching the good word of verses. That's what that is.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so how do you determine which coach or which team leader gets priority? So if I'm one
It's going
captain
to
and you're the other
alternate every
captain?
round.
Okay.
There's no like, oh, well, your team won this one. The only time we ever do that is after the first round. We go, which team won that first round? You get first priority, and then it bounces back and forth. We'll be doing five. It's a best of five. Um, so it can go very quick, or it can go all 5 rounds. Depending on how people feel, we might just play all 5 rounds, just for the sake of playing all 5 rounds.
Well, more verses is always better.
Yeah, more versus is always good, and it's just a modern uh, deck format, so it's wide open. Bring what you want.
Yeah, it sounds like we may be getting some modern changes here before the end of the year.
Exactly.
Uh,
So it might be
if the council rolls those out, is it going to be modern version 3 or are you locking in modern as it stands now? What's your take on that?
go with the most current version of modern.
That's the right answer, sir.
Because
I
I
agree.
mean, yes, we've popped off against the Modern Council, but they do rule in the favor of versus players. So gotta go with it. Sometimes we don't like what they pick, but in the long run, it all makes sense. And if it keeps Smallwood from playing decks that win, I'm all for it.
I don't think there's, to quote River Tam, no power in the verse could stop that.
That's true.
Speaking of which, when are we going to get our Firefly versus cards? Like, come
Oh,
on, guys. Anyway, I won't go down that tangent again. You've heard me go on this tangent for like 7 years now.
it's about this time that you started up again. That's the
So
best thing about
there was
Midwinter,
another event
gathering players.
on Friday after Big Team Battle. That was the featured format one.
Yeah,
Is
format
that
one.
start time going to be contingent on when Big Team Battle gets done? Like you mentioned, Big Team Battle could take a while. If I'm playing Big Team and I really want to play in the featured format, is there going to come a point where I may have to drop, or are you scheduling it in such a way that players are going to be
You
able and perhaps
should.
even encouraged to do both?
I'm encouraging people to do both. If I remember correctly, I set everything up that we haven't gone long on Big Team Battle, you know, usually. So it's one of those. I set a time for Big Team Battle, and the next one should flow relatively easy into it.
Perfect.
I am looking up right now, so sorry about this. That's why I'm trying to stall.
If, and maybe this is a worst case scenario, if Upper Deck does not reveal a new featured format until like January 10th, is there a plan B in your back pocket for what the format of this particular part of the event would be uh, if Upper Deck kind of leaves you hanging until it's like, hey man, people aren't going to have time to build decks? Like, have you considered that, or is it just Upper Deck needs to provide a format and you have full faith that they will?
Um, I had full faith, but now you have me thinking. I need to talk to Veets about this right after this interview. Because you're
So
right, they
maybe
could.
there's not a plan B now, but there will be.
Yeah, there will be a plan B by the time it rolls around. And I
Okay.
will, as soon as I have plan B locked in, I will let people know. I will
Uh,
say latest will be January 9th. If we have not heard something, I will let people know what the plan B is. So that way there's time. Like, I'm going to hope that I will probably keep it incursion then if that's the way it's going to go. So that way people will have those decks on them and they don't have to build another deck 3 days, 2 to 3 days before they're leaving.
Sure. I mean, that is pretty tough. If they haven't announced it by Monday the 9th and the event's supposed to be Friday the 3rd. Ooh, Friday the 13th.
Yes.
Look at
I know
that.
that.
Everybody be safe as they travel to Midwinter. Uh-oh.
I will say the weather is
Always bad.
never been on your side.
No,
Usually when you come here.
it snows on us every year. So is there anything else about Friday? We've got the big team battle. We've got the fingers crossed featured format. Is there anything else people could participate in on Friday, or that they need to know if
Always
they're
going to
going to be?
be Yeah, there's always going to be random games going on. I'm sure of it. People Friday is usually when the time people come in. Like that's usually like people start arriving Thursday night, Friday morning, Friday afternoon. So we try to start having pickup games at that point. Just getting together with the old people you usually see. Like I usually only see like Ashwan, Smallwood, and them about once a year. I haven't been,
Mhm.
able to make Gen Con in a year or two. So that's
It
usually the
is
time
kind
that
of
we're
like
getting together.
summer camp. Everybody coming
Yeah,
back together.
it's nerd summer camp.
Okay, so we already covered Saturday and the classic.
Yeah.
What's going on Sunday?
Sunday we have what's called Everybody Gets One. I am combining the Singularity format and the Life's Too Short format. That means basically you're only allowed one copy of a card and everything has to have one life.
Oh my goodness.
Trade off to this is I'm going to be allowing 5 to 6 health characters like MCs into this because with Singularity it's hard to hit that perfect hand that's going to keep you alive, and I'd rather have it go kind of fun with only one life.
Okay.
I don't want you to hit a bad hand and be just out after turn 2.
So 5 and 6 health
Yep.
MCs. Everything else is typical life's too short format.
Yes. And
Uh,
once again, the Singularity format, which you're only allowed one card of
is there
like
any kind of like card pool restrictions layered on top of that, or I
it's
mean,
modern
since
ban
it's
list.
Okay.
And then just to make sure that people understand that basic locations and wild locations you can have four of, but special locations like Wakanda, Mob Mentality, those kind of ones, you're only allowed one of.
Oh, interesting. So
So that
everybody's
way,
deck starts with one Crisis of All Realities or whatever that's called.
yeah,
That's card one in every deck.
yeah, and that's fine. You just got to hit it though. So
Hmm.
one
Oh,
in
Nexus, that's what
nine
it's called.
chance, and then have those
And
Ralph Edwards kind of odds of just hit that card.
well, jeez. I'm gonna leave that one alone. What as far as entry fees for the various events? I completely forgot to ask about that with every event. What are people looking at as far as participation cost in these?
Um, Cost to attend is literally just buying your badge for the event. Everything else is free to come to. So once you buy your badge, so you don't even have to buy an all weekend badge. You buy just the Saturday badge. You can play in the main tournament, and then you can be done. You can buy a weekend badge. You can play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You can buy. There is a Thursday event. Like it does start Thursday through Sunday. You can buy Thursday through Sunday, and you can play in every single event if you would like. Or you can just go wander the con. You can go enjoy Milwaukee for what it is. That kind of
Sounded like
stuff.
a ringing endorsement of your town.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you live here, like things are not as exciting as when you don't. Like if I when I came to Iowa City, there was more. It felt like there was more to do because it was all new to me.
True.
Versus now when I'm like, you could go here, I guess.
So I didn't realize there was a Thursday event. What's going on Thursday? Let's touch on that as
Thursday
well.
events is I tried to make it very easy. It's called the You Pick Battle. You will bring two decks. You actually kind of gave me the idea for this. You bring two decks, and after you decide who goes first, the person who's going first will pick one deck, and that's the deck you're playing. And then you will pick one deck of theirs, and that's the deck they're playing.
Oh, so it's like the Conquest format in Hearthstone.
Yes,
I
I'm
love
trying to
it.
give you a little bit.
I've been wanting to see this for years. I'm so excited now.
And if you want, Ben, if I have time, we can sit down and play some just so you can have some conquest in your life.
Yeah, well, we'll see if I can get to town on Thursday. I don't know, man. That's a
No,
big
I mean,
ask.
like, if you have time throughout the weekend, I will sit down and play a conquest match against you.
Sure, sure, we can webcam some games. Like our regular Thursdays that I haven't attended for 6 months.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so is there anything else that I forgot to ask about, or have we hit all the available versus bells and whistles throughout the course of this con?
We have hit all the available whistles. The only thing I will say is Saturday, the main tournament, there is no cut to top eight. Then we play Sunday. It is an all 1 day tournament. So be prepared for a slog if you
We can
top
go
eight.
long. What time did we
You
get
can
out
go
of there last year? Like 11:30, I think.
Oh, I don't even remember. I think it was like 10, but by the time we got back to my house, it was like 11 because then there was the congratulating, figuring things out, making sure you got your W-2 or your W-9s. I don't know. I've never filled out one of those forms.
I remember my parking ticket came out and I had been in the garage for 12 hours and 1 minute, I think. Like, it was really ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a slog. There will be a roughly an hour and a half cut, depending on how we go and how people are feeling, from pools or Swiss to top eight. Usually that's the time that you go get food. If you think you're not doing so well, if you think you're not going to hit, that's the time that you want to DoorDash. If you want to hang around, you're more than welcome to go on to the con at that point. You're more than welcome to do anything. If you're not in top eight, you are not obligated to stay.
But you
I
should,
guess
because it's fun to watch.
it's great because there's lots of whispering and it's like Gossip Girl versus watching players play cards. You're just talking about turns. You're looking at people's hands to kind of figure out what that is. I would appreciate if you are on one side where you could see a player's hand, do not shuffle to the other side to see what's going on. Because I'm just worried about any kind of things.
Yeah. I
Keep
mean,
it.
I think generally speaking, not only are people pretty conscientious about
Yeah.
avoiding, overt cheating like signaling or something, but
Yeah.
in my experience, the people around the table are generally very respectful. They're quiet,
Yes.
being kind of aware of where your body's positioned so you're not bumping into the players or jostling the
Yes.
table. Like we've got a
Very
pretty
much.
good scene.
I was
And
about to
I
say we have a very good top 8 scene.
Yeah, and like let's keep that going. It would be a real
Yeah.
shame to mar a event as awesome and as important to the community as Midwinter with like some bad behavior. I think that is very unlikely to come out of our community.
The worst is I think I'm just telling that to myself because I do that all the time while TOing because I'm not like locked into playing or I didn't play at
Yeah.
all. So I always want to know what everyone's playing.
Well, and as a TO, like if you're a judge, you kind of there's a little bit of a responsibility to keep an eye on,
Yes.
you know,
Keeping it
both
up. I do that
players and
too.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so is there anything else that we need to hit? And if we've covered all of Midwinter, is there anything else that you want to plug, promote, or shout out here as we kind of wrap things up?
I would like to plug that we will hopefully have an MK11 date soon. That would be great because I really want to play that set. Any
Dude, what if it
person in
comes
Upper Deck
out?
listening to this, please just print it so I can have it.
If we
I will
can
start
play
playing first.
Mortal
I might
Kombat,
give up TOing Midwinter if MK11 becomes like a format.
I'm dying for it, dude.
I
And
figured
to
you'd be
play
dying
against
for that.
you
Right?
specifically, like I want to play Mortal Kombat versus against you.
Oh my god, you'll make it back for Thursday nights for that, I guess.
Well, I think if we played real Mortal Kombat, you would probably destroy me. I'm not very good at fighting games.
Kind of rusty. I haven't found my stick since I moved, so it's buried somewhere. You might have an advantage.
Yeah, I'm like the kid who's not good at the games but owns the fight stick and like all the fancy stuff. Like, check this out, but I can't actually use it because I'm no good.
You hope that no one takes you up just because they saw the fight stick.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the kid on the block who has the power glove but has a terrible personality, and you put up with it just to use his power glove. You know, actually, I don't like that metaphor anymore.
Were you the kid with the power glove? Is that what it
No,
is?
no, my
Okay.
family didn't even have an NES, dude.
Oh man, that was
Yeah,
rough.
yeah, I mowed lawns for a whole summer to be able to buy my Super Nintendo.
But it was
Anyway,
worth it.
this took a turn. I thought you were doing shout outs, man.
Oh, I mean, yeah. But yeah, shout outs to once again all the players that have been coming for years. Ben, I do believe you've been there since the beginning.
I missed 1 year.
You missed 1 year. Oh yeah,
I was on a
but
cruise with my family.
that's fair. Carlos also missed 1 year because of a cruise with his family, so you're solid. Everybody gets one, as I said.
Fair.
But yeah, all those people that have been coming for years, and supporting it like it has to be that thing that Upper Deck looks at us kind of specially, which is nice. This is all thanks to you guys. This is the reason why, like I said, I've been slacking to Ben earlier, but I will still always put in that work for you guys. You are the real reason that Midwinter has happened like it is. Shout out to Anne, who runs Midwinter, who lets us basically do what we want. I just give her dates and she clears stuff for us.
Mm-hmm.
So she's a great lady. If you see her, thank her. If you feel like it, buy some Midwinter merchandise because that always helps support the con. Besides that, I am out of shouts.
All
Do
right.
you
Well,
have
hey,
anyone
man.
to shout out, Mr. Ben?
Well, I'm
Maybe
going to
perhaps
shout out
a
you
shop?
for the work you put in on Midwinter. I mean, I understand events don't work if the community doesn't show up, but they also don't work if there isn't a TO in there making things happen. And as a consumer of this event, I have major appreciation for you and Carlos before you, and for what you guys have done and really built into such a special part of what it means to be a versus player.
Thank you. Perhaps you have some shout outs for some Patreons?
Oh yeah, I should have got my list out, huh? Well,
Yeah,
if you
because
like what
I'm
we're
gonna
doing
go.
here, patreon.com/thebuildphase. Uh, Brad, Jason, Justin, Patrick, Peter, and Roland, I think are all of my patrons
Sounds
who
about right.
are at the level at which I owe them a shout out every episode, and that was from memory. So if I forgot somebody, I'm really sorry.
I will back Ben. He does not have the greatest of memories sometimes, but he means well.
Well, it's getting worse every year, man. That's what happens when you collect this many birthdays.
That's true. That is true.
Okay, and on that depressing note, I guess we'll wrap things up here. As always, it's great to chat with you, man. Both appreciate what you do for the Versus community, but also, as a friend over these many years, one of the coolest things about Versus is the many close relationships I've developed through the game. and you're certainly one of them. So until next time, go win some games.